We are now live, so we'll wait for a couple of the viewer count to stabilize here. We're talking today about AI. Who's not, right? So are we going to subscribe ourselves to the masses, or are we going to talk about it in a different context? I happen to think we've got a little bit of a different perspective here. So there is, there's been a huge influx of AI capabilities in the last 4 years, really ever since ChatGPT back in 2022. We've just seen the capabilities exploding month after month, and sort of at one point it was accelerating. We at first we thought maybe there's no limit to how quickly this technology can get better after each iteration. It would seem to me, especially with the introduction of GPT-5, that many people, many professionals in the industry who are watching the AI space seem to think that, we are at a level where our progress has definitely slowed down from the pace it was at before. But there is one question that is probably something that you encounter on a regular basis. I know I definitely do, being a tech consultant in the legal context, which is any of this stuff actually any good? Like, can it actually help my law firm? Can it help me to be more efficient? Can it help me to get things done faster than I could previously? And can it also do it accurately? So that sort of was the precipice for us coming together. And we decided to put together a program that we've been putting our time, energy into over the last couple months, really, to make sure that we can really get this thing tight. So we are going to be tomorrow. We're here to, this is going to be a shameless plug for our webinar tomorrow, which is titled Leveraging AI and Human Capital. And we're going to be talking about all of the ways that law firms specifically can use AI in order to modify the way they work in a meaningful way that actually creates results. So again, this gets away from all the conceptual stuff. We're going to get straight into the details tomorrow. But today, I felt it made sense for Brian and I just to do a quick live stream and talk about some of the most pressing either questions that we've encountered or just topics related to this presentation. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jay McAllister, and I'm the CEO of Paragon Tech. We're a legal tech consultancy. We primarily help law firms to identify the best case management system, figure out what's working, what's not, based on their current operations. And then we customize that platform so that they can squeeze every last bit of productivity out of it. So obviously AI is something that's very near and dear to me. It's becoming commonplace in pretty much every case management tool. And then there are also separate tools floating out there that you can use for various components of your law practice. And of course, I've got the big man to my left. I've got Brian Figueroa. Brian, what's up, man? Tell the people who
Hey,
you are.
what's going on, Jay? Man, it's good to be doing this together. I think this is a topic that's been wildly discussed right now and really affecting a lot of different industries and the way that people are actually viewing their career. Right? There's a big fear of AI replacing jobs or eliminating certain industries, but I don't think that's the case. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Figueroa. I'm the president of Ship6OS. Ship6OS is a virtual staffing and recruitment agency, and we primarily work with law firms and legal tech companies by providing them the ability to access global talent that is highly skilled, highly vetted at a fraction of the cost to allow them to better leverage the people internally that they have and maximize the time and productivity, which ties right into what we're doing here with this webinar.
Right. It's interesting because from our specific domains, we're interfacing with and having conversations about AI every single day. I mean, clients are constantly presenting us with new questions and ways that we hadn't even thought of for how AI could potentially be used. And we both individually taken that into our respective areas of expertise and then use that to expand our knowledge. So what you won't get today, but you will tomorrow if you attend the webinar, is you have obviously me. I'm the CEO of a legal tech consultancy. So I'm only working with lawyers and law firms in how to implement AI. You have Brian. He's the president of Ship6OS. He's working with law firms to figure out how can they deploy their human resources, get people in roles that can actually move the firm forward in a productive way. And then also, someone you don't have today, but you will tomorrow, is Kathleen McMorrow. Now, Kathleen is the president of Communications Optic. She focuses on all of the governance and internal policies and procedures and reputation management of a law firm. So if you want to use AI in a productive way, the tools aren't enough. The staff isn't enough. It's all about also having the rules of engagement, so to speak, for how your firm and your staff can use it. So that you're going to have all three of us together in one webinar. We won't even charge you. Have we decided on that? We're not charging people, right?
Not this time. Not this time. Maybe
Not
next
this
time though.
Yeah, we're gracious. We're very gracious. So we'll all be all be together tomorrow to come hang and talk about the legal profession. I should have also mentioned with Kathleen McMorrow, she also works primarily with law firms. She's worked in-house at many law firms, helping them to put together policies and strategies and helping with their PR presence. And, we've got the best of the best here. So, and that's because you deserve it. So we're going to all come together and share some insights with you tomorrow. But let's first we wanted to talk a little bit more today as we were coming up with the concept for this live stream. We wanted to make this practical and then also sort of preview some of the things that we're talking about tomorrow. I know one of the things that we discussed is that we wanted to provide a little bit of insight about our individual contexts and relationship with AI currently and how it sort of blends so well into this presentation. So I'll kick it off and then Brian, you can follow. For me, it's fairly obvious that from a technologist perspective, AI is something that I've been tracking since pretty much the early days of ChatGPT. Interestingly enough, for you eagle-eyed attorneys out there, ChatGPT, I believe, was released in November of 2022. And most people view ChatGPT as the first generative AI model that was made public. But interestingly enough, for the legal profession, there was actually a tool that predated ChatGPT called Spellbook. If any of you have used Spellbook, shout out to Spellbook. They actually were slightly ahead of ChatGPT. And Spellbook allowed attorneys to sort of in that early stage, it was all about analyzing existing contracts in order to determine the overall sentiment and be able to put together better, more robust contracts for your clients. Right. And then they've expanded over time. They've added document drafting capabilities as well as they have an agentic component to the platform that allows attorneys to perform tasks in their entirety rather than just individual components. Right. So since those very early days, I've been tracking this stuff. And I am somebody, as I'm a little biased as a technologist because I tend to be, like most technologists, we see the new shiny toy, we want to play with it, we want to get it in our hands, and we're already seeing the opportunities that might lie ahead. But one thing that's unique about me is that I'm also a natural born skeptic, which is probably why, I work so well with legal, with lawyers, because, law school to me, from all of the reports I've received, is a proving ground that essentially teaches attorneys how to be better skeptics, how to issue spot, right? So I take all of that together and then I combine that with my optimism, and then I'm really finding all the chinks in the armor that may exist, and my team helps to support that goal forward. So when we make recommendations, these recommendations are based not only on the upside, but also, I think more importantly, understanding what the potential disadvantages are, understanding what those limitations are from the beginning before you implement. I know in a lot of our early implementations, we would implement tools that would help attorneys do various things like manage their email inbox and things like that. And we sort of stumbled initially into this AI consulting space because of the fact that there were so many disparate tools and they all claimed to be able to transform the way your firm works. So if you get caught up in sort of the marketing, which I know we'll talk a little bit about that later, but if you get caught up in the marketing, it can ultimately create undesirable results for you. So that's my connection to AI and legal and why this presentation is gonna rock tomorrow. But Brian, how about you on your end?
Yeah, no, 100%. And coming from a legal tech background, I've historically law firms haven't been quick to adopt technology, but I think we're seeing something totally different with AI, right? Because the adoption rate compared to, let's say, the great cloud migration, right, that happened around 2012 to 2019, 2020 when COVID hit, it was a very slow adoption until it was an absolute necessity. Well, we're not seeing that with AI, right? And I guess how that ties in directly into staffing is, the big question right now is AI going to take jobs, right? And now I'm the firm believer that AI won't take jobs, right? And the reason why I think that is that, again, historically, most firms have always thought that they needed more people to grow. And that's not the reality of it, right? Being in staffing, something that I've learned fairly fast was that in order to grow, you just need to get more from the people that you have on your team, right? Redeploying the human capital resources that you have in your firm to better handle situations, problems, challenges that may arise from your firm. That's really where the meat and potatoes of that is, right? That's how you want to think about AI and human capital together. And so tomorrow, what we're hoping to show you is that leveraging AI strategically and staffing could help you reclaim anywhere between 20 to 40% of your productivity back, okay? Which is huge. If you translate that into dollars, I mean, just quantify that based on your hourly rate or even half of your hourly rate if you have juniors or associates underneath you, and the money talks, right? The money really starts making a difference there. And so just a quick data point, right, from Clio's 2024 report, um, we noticed that the average law firm tends to capture 35 to 40% utilization, meaning that 60% of their day is unbillable, right? Now, we know that lawyers and law firms typically set targets, a billable target per day for their employees, which means that these goals are never being hit. The growth and acceleration rate that we want is never fully being realized. And now we throw our hands up in the air and say, well, why isn't this working, right? And so with what we're going to be reviewing tomorrow, right, and taking that into consideration, and another study that shows that AI pilots like Microsoft Copilot are essentially giving back 26 minutes in a day every day back. There's a lot of things that we're going to cover that you're definitely going to want to leverage in your firm and start seeing a true impact on your billables.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point there, which is to the point about the amount of time that's typically billable in an attorney's day. I think it makes sense to convert that into hours because that's where it becomes especially painful, right? Let's just assume that you're working a 10-hour day, which I think is probably reasonable for many attorneys who might work an 8-hour day technically, but then maybe 2 hours, before bedtime, catching up on email and various things like that. That means out of that 10-hour day, you're only billing 3.5 to 4 hours. The rest of that is all administrative time. So the true opportunity of AI here is to be able to automate many of those tasks that are necessary in order to move your matters forward, but don't necessarily translate into a bill for a client. And we haven't even talked about the fact that just because you technically build time, we haven't talked about how much of that you actually realize, how much of that your client is actually paying on that final invoice. Many firms who are operating in a way that is clunkier or more cumbersome than it needs to be, they tend to have downstream effects. And those downstream effects typically tend to be that your bills don't go out on time. And there's been data. I believe it might have also been it might be 8AM's legal trends report. I think it was where they were showing that firms that bill at the end of each month consistently and on time, they typically collect 30% more revenue, meaning they have fewer requests for discounts and write-offs than firms who don't. Right? And so that becomes interesting because when you look at not only this uncaptured non-billable time, and you factor in that if you're sending your bills out later than you should, not on a regular cadence, you're having drop off there. So your total throughput might be 20% of what it actually could have been, right? Instead of that 35 to 40%. So I think that's interesting. And that's where the promise of AI steps in to be able to automate many of those tasks. Now, I'm also aware of the fact that depending on the practice area, for example, for the litigators, your matters may be less formulaic. So from an efficiency standpoint, one of the concerns that I've had voiced to me often tends to be, well, I cannot estimate the time that it takes for any particular matter because the variables are so great that so I can't incorporate a flat fee model. So we need to stay on this hourly model. But also, if you're telling me that I'm going to be more efficient on an hourly based model, are you really just informing me that the AI is going to erode my ability to bill, right? So we're going to cover that tomorrow as well, because for many firms, that's a limiting belief that exists only based on your current experience of how you currently operate your firm. But there is so much latent opportunity there to be able to deliver better legal services and service more of the addressable market. And there's actually additional opportunity to create revenue streams where maybe where it's not compatible with your firm's current operating model. So we're going to cover all that tomorrow. And just for the new people who just jumped in, I just for the new people who just jumped in, I want to make sure that you understand what we're talking about. And that is our webinar labeled Leveraging AI and Human Capital. That will be tomorrow at noon Central, 1 Eastern. We are going to be discussing the tactics from a CEO of a legal technology consulting company. It's myself. We have the president of a virtual staffing recruiting company. That's Brian Figueroa. And we also have the president of a PR and governance and compliance company, Kathleen McMorrow. So we've got a stacked panel tomorrow, and we're bringing all of our expertise together for 1 hour with you, which will essentially take all the questions that you asked and we answer, how you incorporate AI into your model. So, Brian, I saw you had a comment, and maybe I droned on for too long, so you don't remember it, but
No worries.
I want to make sure that people know where to go tomorrow, right?
Listen, whenever we talk about a subject that we're excited of, as humans, we tend to just let it go, right? So don't apologize for that. I can tell that you're just as passionate as I am about this subject, because it really affects the future of the legal industry, right? And to your point, right, on the lost billables, there's also a dollar quantifiable amount that can be appropriated to the labor side of things, right? And so on average, something that we'll be reviewing tomorrow is how to essentially get back up to $11,000 on average at a billable hour of about $300 per associate that you have at your firm. So if you're a law firm that has 5, 10, maybe even 20 associates, the dollar difference start really racking up on a month-to-month basis. It could be the differentiator between your firm hitting 75% of their goal or exceeding 100% of their goal, right? Actually being in line with what the goals you set out at the very beginning of the year, along with your partners, or if you're a solo firm, what you're trying to accomplish by yourself.
And I think it makes sense to point out, this is not hypothetical speaking. I know there's a lot of gurus out there and people claiming to be like, this is not hypothetical thinking. I've seen the results. We both share mutual clients. I've seen these results of these firms that have implemented these strategies within your firms. You've seen my clients, right? This is a reality. Like, this is not something that is just sort of theory hypotheticals. If you leverage this technology properly, it can absolutely have a measurable effect in your firm where you're able to create meaningfully more output with less of a resource with less of a resource usage on your end. So it's something that absolutely is compatible as long as you get it right, and that's what ultimately tomorrow is going to be.
Yeah, and once you resolve the technology, sorry, Jay, right, you start implementing and re-strategizing on the human capital side of things. And obviously at the end, you want to tie it up with your reputational management, right? What are the rules behind the AI at your firm? How is my staff supposed to use AI when there's so many things going on, even within the legal industry, right? With hallucinations within certain software that really can get your firm in trouble or get you in trouble, right? From a legal perspective. So really good stuff. And again, that's just a reminder. It's a webinar tomorrow. That'll be at 12 p.m. CST, 1 p.m. EST. And I'm sure Jay will be dropping the link here for everyone to be able to register. And we hope to see you guys there.
Yeah. And, from that perspective, one of the things that you got to think about when it comes to the internal procedures is that you need to think about, how do you structure your engagement letters? How do you structure your internal policy documents so that your employees know how they can interface, what's acceptable and what's not, which tools are able to be used, and then in what manner? Then also how to set up logical separation between the information that your firm currently houses, so that way individuals who should not have access to that information remain locked out, right? Or even if there's attorneys in your firm who may have a conflict with another matter in your case and in your firm, you need to make sure you can set up that logical division. So we're going to cover all of that tomorrow. We're even going to provide some insights, brand new, hot off the press. The Illinois ARDC has just been the very first regulatory body to release an AI governance template, essentially. So a guidebook, I should say, where they include specific examples of engagement letters, opt-in clauses, and all the tangible components that you need to understand the current state of AI and the capabilities that exist, and then how you can implement that within your firm. So that's all going to be here for tomorrow. One more time for the people, leveraging AI and human capital. It's tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We hope to see you there with our third counterpart, the third musketeer, Kathleen McMorrow. So we've got me, Jay McAllister, from the legal technology consultancy side. I'm the CEO of our company. We've got Brian Figueroa, who is the president of Shift6, a legal staffing and virtual staffing and recruiting company. And then we have Kathleen McMorrow, the president of Communications Optic, who handles everything governance, PR, and compliance to make sure that your firm is using these tools properly. That trio that we just described, those represent the critical elements to ensure that you can deploy AI in a meaningful way that creates the intended results for you, so that you don't end up like the firms who implement a tool and have it sitting on the shelf, or even worse, end up like, I gotta mention, I know you're in New York right now, Brian, the New York attorneys that we've seen in the headlines being cited, being called out for citing fictitious cases. You don't want to be like that. I assume you don't, right? So that's what tomorrow is all about.
And if you didn't tune into the first half of this, again, this session it's not going to be AI buzzwords. It's not going to be a product pitch, right? This is a session that is purely built for managing partners and operations directors who want practical, immediate ROI that they can implement into the firm and make sure that it survives the test of time, meaning future-proofing your law firm and making sure that you can start scaling out if that is your goal.
All right. So you've heard it here from us. We are going to stop droning on and let you get back to your day. Thank you for spending the time with us. Do we have any last words? This is all unscripted, by the way. So, maybe we don't. Maybe we just leave you with nothing. But I'll attempt to solicit some last words. Brian, anything on your end?
No, I'm just really excited about what we're going to be reviewing tomorrow, because I think it's very pivotal. It's a very pivotal moment as well, regarding AI, how that interfaces with human capital, right? Does that mean your firm needs to fire everyone and just run with AI? No, it doesn't, right? But the strategy behind it is what matters, and also the finality of it, right? What happens when we do implement the right software, the right technology? Where do we go from that? And that's where Kathleen is really going to come in and tie the picture up and make sure that you guys have an executable solution that you can always follow up with us if you have questions about.
Absolutely. And on my end, I would just urge you to take a very intentional look at how your firm's operating currently, right? Forget about the marketing hype. Forget about the buzzwords. Think about the largest constraints that you currently experience within your firm. And you know what they are. They represent, they come up every day. Or, someone in your firm is saying XYZ is representing a certain amount of friction within the firm, right? So think about those tasks. Those are the things that are ripe for AI to be introduced in order to augment your workflow, right? We're not talking about replacing individuals, but we are talking about getting very specific for how you will use your existing human resources and how you'll redeploy them to be compatible with this new wave of operating, which is absolutely the AI era that we're in. So that'll do it for today, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m.
Eastern. CST.
All right.
You got that up. Bye, guys.